Okay, so what if I told you there's a silent thief out there that could literally steal half of your family's wealth, and you might not even notice it's happening? Today, we're not just talking about, preserving your legacy. We're talking about building an absolute fortress against that thief. Its name is inflation, and we're going to show you exactly how to beat it. 50%. Just let that number sink in for a second. That's the staggering amount of your family's hard-earned wealth that could just evaporate in only 2 decades. And that's if your legacy plan isn't built to fight back against rising costs. This isn't some far-off risk. It's pretty much the default setting if you do nothing. So that leads us to the big question, the one we're really digging into today. Is your financial fortress actually built to last? We're about to hand you the blueprints to make sure the answer is a definite yes. So the wealth you're building today doesn't just survive, but actually thrives for generations to come. Right, so before we start building, we have to know our enemy. And in this story, the villain is a quiet one. It's inflation, this relentless force that is actively, right now, working against your family's future. So what's our strategy? Well, it's called Inflation Beat Legacy Planning, and the key word here is growth. This is about a radical shift in how we think about this. It's not enough anymore to just protect what you have. The new goal is to actively grow that wealth, making sure it always stays one step ahead of rising costs. And this slide right here shows you exactly what that looks like in the real world. At a pretty standard 3% inflation rate, $1 million today will feel like just over $400,000 in 30 years. I mean, think about that. You haven't lost a single dime in the market, but you've lost more than half your wealth just by standing still. It's wild. To fight this, we need a whole new playbook. This section is all about the foundational pillars, the core ideas for a modern inflation-proof plan. We're shifting from playing defense to playing a really smart strategic offense. So here they are, the new rules of the game. First, we're flipping the script. It's growth over preservation. Second, we're not just going to pay taxes. We're going to strategically minimize them to keep every possible dollar working for you. And third, we're building a plan that isn't rigid and brittle, but one that's flexible enough to bend and not break, no matter what the economy throws at it. This slide just illustrates that difference perfectly. The old way of thinking was basically to hide in a bunker with cash, simple wills, and low-yield bonds. The new goal, our goal, is to build a fortress. The walls are made of equities and real assets, it's guarded by these super smart, tax-efficient trusts, and it's designed with the flexibility to adapt to any threat. All right, now for the really practical stuff. So how do you actually build this fortress? Let's dive into the specific tools and strategies you'll use to put all those core principles into action. This is what a modern legacy portfolio actually looks like. And notice that massive slice. A whopping 65% is dedicated to growth assets like stocks and real estate. Why? Because that's the engine. That's what's going to drive your wealth forward and blow past inflation. The rest is a carefully balanced mix of inflation hedges, alternatives, and just a little bit of cash for emergencies. This is not gambling. It's a calculated, long-term strategy. So what are these growth engines and hedges exactly? Well, your growth engines are your workhorses, equities and real estate, which have a long, proven history of beating inflation. Then you have your hedges, things like Treasury inflation-protected securities, or TIPS. These are government bonds where the actual value increases with inflation. Pretty cool, right? And then assets like commodities and private equity can add another powerful layer of protection and growth. Now, let's talk about the legal structures that protect all this wealth. First up, we've got the tax shield, the ILET. You can think of it like a vault for your life insurance policy. By putting the policy inside this special trust, the payout goes directly to your heirs, 100% tax-free. It's a total game changer for handling estate costs without having to sell off precious assets. Next is what I call the wealth multiplier, the GRAT. This is for those assets you think are really going to take off in value. A GRAT lets you pass on all that future growth to your heirs with little to no gift tax. You're basically moving a future windfall out of your taxable estate today. It's incredibly powerful. And finally, the endless compounding tool, the dynasty trust. Now, depending on the state, these trusts can last for generations or even forever, letting wealth grow and pass down without getting hammered by estate taxes every single time. It is the ultimate long-term compounding machine. Okay, so we've covered the why and the what. Now, let's get down to the how. Here is a real, actionable plan you can start working on today to turn all this knowledge into a reality. Here it is, a clear 5-step path. It's totally manageable. It all starts with just knowing where you stand today. Then, you assemble your dream team of experts. Step 3 is where you get it all down on paper. Step 4 is about bringing the whole plan to life, and this is crucial, checking in on it every year. And finally, Step 5 is about empowering the next generation. This isn't just your mission, it's a family legacy. So let's ground all these strategies in the real world. We'll look at some common mistakes people make, see how this has worked for others, and then take a quick peek at what's just over the horizon. These are the 4 big traps you really want to avoid. Being too conservative is basically a guaranteed loss to inflation, so you have to stress test your plan. Tax laws are always changing, so it pays to act now to lock in benefits. Family drama can derail even the best plans, so communicate, communicate, communicate. And finally, you manage market risk not by trying to time the market, but with smart diversification. And hey, if you need proof that this long-term, growth-focused strategy actually works, you don't have to look any further than the Rockefellers. They set up their dynasty trusts nearly a century ago. And by focusing on assets that beat inflation, like oil, real estate, and stocks, that wealth has compounded into billions. It's the ultimate case study in playing the long game. And you know, this whole field isn't standing still. The future of legacy planning is digital. We're already seeing AI being used for financial forecasting, and the rise of digital assets is creating all sorts of new opportunities and challenges. The big takeaway here? Your plan has to be a living, breathing document, ready to adapt to whatever comes next. And you know, ultimately, this brings us to the core philosophy of what this is all about. This is not about hoarding wealth. It's about being a responsible steward, creating a system that allows your legacy to grow and to provide opportunities for generations yet to come. So we've laid it all out. You've seen the threat, you understand the principles, and you've got the tools. The blueprint is right here. So the only question left is the one you have to answer for yourself. What is the first concrete step you are going to take this week to secure your legacy? Thanks so much for joining us.